Hey, hello, how are you? My name is Enrique Palafox, and I'm from Mexico City, and I'm here with Yuri Garcia. How are you, Yuri?
I'm fine, I'm great, and excited to talk about Dracula again in this video.
Wonderful. And with Magda. How are you, Magda, from Poland?
I'm fine, hi, and can't wait for chapter number 2.
Chapter number 2. We are already here, and we are very glad to have you here, the audience, and we are very glad that you enjoy what we are doing here, because this is a very interesting concept to have specialists in Dracula from all over the place gather and talking about Dracula. I mean, it's a wonderful idea, I'm really enjoying this, and we are very glad to have you here, and we know that you are enjoying our content. So welcome to our house, and it's an honor to have these conversations. How are you guys? How you been?
Everything's fine over
Everything
here.
wonderful.
Good to see you again.
So this is
Everything fine.
a very interesting time for Dracula, because this week we are celebrating 124 anniversary of the original publication of Dracula, guys, and that is amazing. 124 years of this classic novel. How do you feel about this? The celebration, and this is I feel like this is our birthday or something.
If I may
Magda,
start, I don't know.
yes.
Yeah, it's quite a monumental anniversary, isn't it? Even though it's not completely round, so we have to wait another year. But it's when you think about it, 124 years around. This is quite a history. And the translations into other languages is just a pop culture phenomenon which is still alive and never cease to be alive. It's immortal. It's undead.
It's immortal, Yuri.
It is strange for me because the date of the publication of Dracula has always been something very emblematic to me. That 1897. It's a very emblematic date for me. First of all, because Dracula, the novel, he talks about lots of communication technologies, and they talk, and they don't talk about cinema. That was already around since 1895. So this is very. This
It
is a very
wasn't that popular to be
yes.
used
It
for
is
everyone, no?
yes. It
Well,
is
it's
very
just 2
interesting.
years old.
Yeah, it's very interesting, this aspect, and cinema is the medium that made Dracula very popular. So there's this paradox that's interesting. But another thing that makes this specific year of Dracula's publication very interesting for me is the fact that the novel feels older. It feels older.
Yeah.
I don't know, not because not because of because it's updated or something like this, because it looks more classical for me. It's something that in my head before I started researching Dracula, it looks like something that was written 500 years
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It has this feeling of
Feeling, yeah.
in the novel. So it's very interesting for me that it's not a very old novel, but it looks very older because it has this classical aspect over there. It's one of the main books in the horror genre that we have. So it looks more classical, older. It looks something that it was written in the same time that the Decameron was written, or something like this.
That is remarkable what you're saying, because I constantly read it, and I read it year by year, at least 2 times a year. So and this feeling that you're saying is very, very tangible, because the way Bram wrote the entire text is very attached to the Victorian era philosophy, and it's very conservative, and it's very, we need to say, very is how do you say, mansplaining?
Can you?
Mansplaining.
Mansplaining, because this is very like I lost the translations about the men over women.
Yes, it's very patriarchal.
Very patriarchal, and the women are the way Bram write the characters from his point of view is very conservative from a women of our time. It's a clash of way of thinking.
Yes, it is. I'm going to leave Magda talk about this because, but just one observation that is very interesting about this: the theme, the theme of Dracula, the story, and the way that the characters are portrayed are very classic and very old. The feeling that we have, but Bram Stoker's stylistic way of describing this in the book is very modern. So it's very strange over there, because when you capture his style over there, you see, no, it's an 1897 book. Maybe you can even think that it's a more modern than 1897. But the thing is, the theme is very, and the theme attracts us a lot, and it's very conservative. It is very patriarchal over there.
Definitely.
Magda.
Well, it's first of all, it's as you said, it's Victorian, and it's quintessentially Victorian novel, even though we consider it that we have this immortal character who is supernatural, and it transgresses what was happening at that time in literature. But then, as you say, it's very, it's really patriarchal, and it presents traditional views. So even if we look through characters, well, female characters, let's see. We have Lucy, who, yes, she was a very free and lively character, and she was thinking about romance and sex and all that in a slightly unconventional way, but in the end she got punished. She got a vampire for a very short time, then she got just annihilated.
And so that became like a thing in horror movies, because it's a constant. The girl that go beyond the limits of morality normally is the one that got killed first, no?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. That's there must be a punishment for anyone who transgresses these patterns. Then we have Mina Mary, who is resisting all the attentions of Dracula in the end because of her devotion to her husband or fiancé first. So again, this is a pattern to follow, isn't it, for Victorians especially?
Yeah, it has these metaphors over there, or these moral codes in the book that for the woman position, that it looks like it gives some categories of what a woman can be over there, right? That if you are a woman that is thinking about sex and romance in unconventional ways, like Lucy, you are a bad woman. You are a vampire. This is the convention over there. And if you are a very pudic woman and wanting to stay virginal with your husband and having that very traditional and conventional, then you keep yourself human. You are not a vampire. But if in this case you want to be a woman who works, what is the work that the woman has over there? Is the secretary. It's what Mina does. So it's a secretarial work over there. Even if you participate in the laborial part of the action, it is in a secretarial way over there. So it's very specific, the rigid and moral codes that woman can have over there in the book in this manner. I don't know if Magda disagrees, but
Oh no! I agree completely, and I think that's the whole plot of Dracula is a male adventure. It's a little bit like Western. A
Yeah.
group of men goes and have wonderful adventures,
we
whereas
we even
women
have
stay
the
at home. And
cowboy, no, we even have the cowboy and the chasing, and I mean
exactly.
the ending is very Hollywoodesque, no, very dramatic, and they are running against the sun, and this is the rush, you know.
Yes, exactly, and that's probably why cinema loves this story so much
Yeah.
that they cannot stop
But
adapting it for screen.
this is very important, but let's go back to the 124th anniversary, because although this book has a lot of flaws, no, as we are talking about, and it's not very well edited, no. I feel sometimes, I feel like Bram did rush the publishing because of the copyright issues. I have a theory that for me, Bram Stoker was not a writer in the full sense of the idea. I mean, if we subtract Dracula from his work, no one will talk about Bram Stoker. I mean, he had another novels, and I really don't say that he's awful. No, I'm not selling that, but he is he is famous because of Dracula, and we need
He
to be very
he's
clear.
below average, maybe. Nobody would
Middle.
talk about the layer of the white worm. Nobody would talk about it.
Definitely, but we can agree in the pass of time, his work will be already forgotten if he doesn't have Dracula. But for me, and Yuri may relate with this, and maybe you too, Magda. For me, that I came from a communication background with the media background. For me, Bram Stoker was not a writer but a content producer. I mean, he worked for in the theater of the best theater in the best empire in the world. He managed to be the manager for more than 30 years. He knew about everything about the production. He knew about how to write a script. He knew about how to manage the company move for the tour. I mean, he was a very, as you said earlier, Yuri, the novel is very related with the media because Bram was very into media. He even published Dracula in theater as a theater play before the book came out to the public eye. So for me, that is the beginning of transmedia. He had a story, and he wanted to acquire the copyrights of his story in all the media he can get. I can bet if the cinema was very developed when he was alive, I can bet he will be the one who brought the story into the cinema. So
The
for
one
me,
who produced Nosferatu.
yeah, definitely. What will
Could be
happen? This is
easier.
a question for you. What would have happened if the widow of Stoker sell the copyrights to Morneau instead of fighting him? What would have happened if Morneau had the rights to film the story of Dracula? We will.
Perhaps all the names of the places and characters would have been kept in the first place.
Yes. Yes.
And it wouldn't have to be undercover as such.
Yeah.
And then, but on the other hand, because Nosferatu was not available for such a long time, and it became a legend, even though nobody's seen it for some time. Maybe that's a part of its value today, because it's such a treasure that was kept in a very mysterious way, a little bit like Dracula himself. I mean, Dracula, spoiler alert, didn't survive in the novel, but but he survived in media and transmedia, as you say. So that's he's immortal still.
I can bet that was the oldest spoiler alert of them all. You're spoiling a 124 years story.
Sorry.
I like what Magda said, because it's something that there's no possible outcome that would be better or worse. It's a different possibility, and it's gonna have a good side and a bad side. The good side would be that probably it would be easier for all the publicity of the movie and lots of other aspects, and to achieve everything. In the other side, we would the folklore of this forbidden movie wouldn't have been made, as Magda pointed, and some artistic choices over there that they had to do, not only Murnau but Albin Grau as well, because all of the decisions of modifying things from the movie were not especially from Murnau. It was from Enrique Galin, that was the script writer, Albin Grau, that I think was the producer, and Murnau. So these three over there, all of these artistic choices that they did over there wouldn't be present in the movie, that I think that are really important. Probably the name of the movie wouldn't be Nosferatu, it would be Dracula. And Nosferatu is a very emblematic name. The name sometimes is very important. It's just like Dracula, the book. Yeah. If it wasn't called Dracula, if it would be called like Vampire or Count Vampire or something like this, that was if we go back to Elizabeth Miller's Dracula Notes, we can see that the original plan was not Dracula. Maybe it wouldn't have this appeal. So I think that some elements would be lost, if some other elements would be gained.
And the narrative of Dracula, I guess, will never have expanded so far, because as you just said, when Nosferatu try to adapt Dracula, and they need to put their own input, their own artistic ideas. They come up with resources that they are not in the novel, like the shadow. I mean, Bram Stoker is very clear in the novel that that Count Dracula cannot cast any kind of shadow because he doesn't have a soul. He's very specific on that, and it's a very visual element. This scene of Count Orlok lurking Harker, and we have the shadow out there. Or the other thing is the dying from the sun. Yes. And that is a trope of vampirism nowadays. Normally, people assume that all vampires die from the sun because of that movie.
Yeah.
Because in the novel, Count Dracula can go dancing in the street on daylight, and he will
don't. I just had a vision of Dracula dancing in the street. I would like to see that.
I remembered the Dracula movie from Leslie Nielsen that has the scene of him dancing in front of a mirror.
Yeah, he's dancing. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, many of my students actually are surprised when I tell them. I mean, it's so deeply in the cultural imagination that Dracula dies because of the sun. So they are very surprised, those who haven't read the book, that that's not how Dracula ends. How come? Well, obviously Dracula dies with the sun.
Yeah.
Yes, from the sun, exactly.
I'm really glad, Magda, that your students they still think that Dracula dies, that vampires dies with the sun, because after Twilight they invented that vampires shine with the sun, and I'm really terrified with the possibility of this Twilight idea becomes a thing, that it becomes a thing in pop culture, and I really hope
Oh,
this
okay.
can be forgotten, this idea of vampires shining in the sun,
I
because it's
don't
a
think it will.
terrible idea. So
I don't really think it will. I think this is a new trend, a 21st century trend, and it's going to develop in so many other ways that we don't even think about right now. But if you think about Nosferatu, and if he shone in the sun, no, he couldn't because he died from the sun.
Yeah.
Sorry. But Bela Lugosi already could try shining in the sun. I think that would be an interesting aspect
Yeah.
as well, which
Yeah.
Yuri doesn't want to see. Okay, let's move on then.
Yeah, but the thing with Dracula is that it's very old, but in other way, it's very alive. I mean, it's very new because the story that Bram wrote got the attention from the media since Nosferatu and since the Broadway play of which started with Bela Lugosi, no, and it gathered attention from the media, and it kept coming and coming and coming with new reinterpretations, with new inputs from another directors, from another artists, because Dracula is not only a movie phenomenon. It's in the comic books, it's in the theater, it's in the radio, in audio. I mean, it's on video games. So it's a very cultural thing. So to have a 104th celebration of this novel, it's important because of the cultural impact. But on the other hand, the original text is fading because of this mediatic Dracula presence. The original one is fading, fading, fading. How do you feel about that?
I'm not sure if it's fading really. I mean, maybe when we think about the fact that people are more oriented towards visual media because it's easier and it takes more time than, less time than investing
Consume.
yourself into reading a novel.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the reason. Also, and then that comes from all sorts of reasons, including the hectic working working policy nowadays in many countries. But I don't know if it's faded. I think it's not faded. It's just transformed into this, as you say, transmediatic character now.
Mhm.
Then Dracula is not only what Bram Stoker intended. Dracula is also everything else: comic books and films and many different interpretations of it now.
Yeah.
interesting, this question, because Enrique, he thinks it's fading. Magda thinks not necessarily, and I'm the total opposite of Enrique. I think it is reviving, actually,
Mhm.
because when in this because of transmedia, because of this transmedia moments that we pass. Because one thing is talking the hypothesis that Dracula is a transmedia creation already is very interesting, but it was made in times that we didn't have this transmediatic presence
Mhm.
with powers of more equality,
Yeah.
and during some time when cinema got Dracula, uh, Dracula was very cinematic and very
Adaptable.
refer and very referenced from cinema. So the only way that if you didn't read the book, the only way that you had to to know what would be Dracula was in cinema. That was a bigger medium, especially when
Yeah.
television
Yeah.
arrived and produced movies as well. So
Yeah.
you had this very strong impact of the cinematic Dracula around during some time. And nowadays, with this wider transmediatic apparatus that we have, we start having some revivals of the Dracula's book. one example is the work that you do, Enrique, that you bring back the Dracula book. But if you research on Google, Dracula, uh, probably you're gonna have 1,000, a million images over there.
Yeah.
One of them is going to be an image based on the description of the book. I know because I already found in Google an image. Bram Stoker never drawed it, but other people made this and put over there in Google. If you did this, if you did this 20 years ago or 30 years ago, before you had this internet boom over here, this would not be possible. The only Dracula that people would have
Is
was
Bela
the
Lugosi.
cinematic Dracula. So I think that this moment that we have of internet and opening of different sources of media is reviving a little bit of Dracula's origin over there.
Oh, definitely. But the thing that I'm trying to put into the table is that this work is almost forgotten by the whole majority of the pop culture in that way, in that specific way, because Dracula, it's a phenomenon, a literary phenomenon by itself. I mean, it has never been out of publish. I don't know about any other book beyond the Bible that has that level of reproduction in all over the world. I mean, because this is not only a book from England. This book is important in Spain, in Mexico, in Brazil, in Poland, in all over the world, and it keeps coming. I had a lot of editions, and it's amazing how you can get different editions with different artwork, because in that artwork we can have representation of different artists of the book. So in literary means, it has its own right, its own place, and it's one of the most important and classical stories in the world, and it will be growing and growing and will be there. But the media haven't retold that story in a proper way, because as we have discussed, the story, the Dracula in the media is completely different as the one that Bram wrote, and normally the pop culture look more for that kind of manifestations. I mean, they go, if Hollywood is launching like a movie, let's say like this Dracula Untold movie, which is very very complicated, because it makes some of parts of the novel, it makes some parts of the Blood Impaler, it means some, it's a mixture of things, but they put a lot of money in investing in advertisement and that kind of stuff. People tend to look to Dracula and buy that message from the media, and not definitely from the book. That's my point.
Yeah, you might be right here. Although, on the other hand, when you think on the environment, well, the groups of literati who are, I think that it becomes actually more and more fashionable nowadays to get back to the book. And when we were talking about the first edition, this iconic yellow cover that it had when it was first published by Archibald Constable and Company.
Yeah.
So that yellow cover is getting really famous nowadays.
Yes,
right?
It is very recognizable, isn't it? It's an iconic picture.
Baker Stoker told me a story about the color of the jacket, and I really like the story. I mean, it's not very verifiable, but I really like it. It's supposed to resemble the sickness of the skin. When you die and the corpse try to go into the another facet of the decomposing, normally the yellow resembles like a illness. So
Oh, all right.
yeah, that and the important to have a yellow book because it's very powerful in the color scheme.
Uh-huh. Oh, I haven't heard this interpretation, but oh, one sure thing is that that time where Dracula first was first published is the time of various penny dreadfuls on the market in the UK as well, and yellow was associated with the color. Yellow was associated with, well, a little bit of disreputable penny dreadfuls treating about eroticism or a scandal.
Yeah.
So there is something in it as well. So probably everything, a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. I would like to know the designer of that book to know why he used the red in the typography of Dracula by Bram Stoker and that specific kind of dust jacket. I have this the first edition in the United States. This is the first representation of the Count. And this is from 1904.
Oh,
But
all right. And is he
Oh, this is
wearing a
very
flare
interesting.
or
yeah,
what is
look,
he wearing? Because I can't really see. Yes, he is wearing some kind of a robe. Oh, okay. He actually, and the wolf, of course.
yeah,
He bears some resemblance to Vlad the Impaler.
yeah.
Or maybe it's just the beard.
But
I
but
don't know.
but but that is interesting because the original book doesn't have any kind of illustration, doesn't have any kind of visual aid, and later in the other editions that the same publisher continued to develop, they began to put the covers interpretations of the Count of very realistic and very approachable with the text. We have this Count. One of them, I believe, is the 1914 edition, which is who depicts the Count from the window. No, it's very attached to the text.
Mm-hmm.
If possible, I would like to just come back a little bit to
Yes,
something
yes,
that
yes.
you were talking about, and then Magda gave her opinion, and she mentioned the yellow book, and we went to this yellow book. But coming back to that thing that you were talking about, the book being cinematic Dracula having a bigger presence than the book. It is interesting to think about this because when cinema appeared and when television appeared and when radio appeared and all these technological mediums appeared, we had the talk that books would disappear. No need for books anymore because now we have this specific medium. And then another specific medium appeared. No books no more because we have this specific medium. With internet, the same thing. No books no more because we have this specific medium. And the thing is, the books continue really present over there. They didn't disappear. So people will have to deal with the fact that books are not going to disappear. But the thing is, it's inevitable that books start losing some space because before you have these technological mediums, you had books as the center of the universe over there. Every knowledge was learned by books, narratives by books, and then you had this book as the most important medium during lots of time.
Yeah.
Nowadays we live in a more visual. Visual books are visual as well because you read, but visual in the aspect of image, a more imagetic times. And cinema has a very cinema, television, and the audiovisual has a very big presence since the last 100 years over there. And the thing is, Dracula is one of the most important books But the thing is, Dracula is almost also one of the most important cinema characters. A few years ago, Dracula was the most adapted, not adapted, but the most present literary character in cinema. Uh, because I think Sherlock Holmes has
Sherlock
more
Holmes and
narrative.
Dracula has like a toe to toe.
Yeah, but I think that Sherlock Holmes has more narratives in cinema. But Dracula doesn't appear only in Dracula narratives. Dracula appears, for example, in Blade. Blade Trinity, you have the punked the punk Dracula over there, very strong with his bald head, a very different Dracula. But you have Dracula over there, so it is a very present character in cinema.
He appears
So
in Twilight as well.
Yeah.
in this case,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
yes.
new, that is a new one for me because I hate that movie. So I never I have never saw that one.
He
So
does appear in I think it's the final part when the vampires are gathering and are planning the war against the Volturi clan. So we have Dracula. He comes to aid. Sorry, because we interrupted you now.
No, but this is the thing. So you have a very present character in cinema as well. And in the last years, cinema has been a more present in our pop cultural imaginary than books. So the thing is, this duel between the literary Dracula and the cinematic Dracula is because Dracula was written in a book that nowadays doesn't have the same presence as cinema. Uh, as cinema, no, as the audiovisual medium. If we get the Marvel Comics book, everybody thinks about the cinematic Thor. Nobody thinks about the comic book Thor. Robert Downey Jr. is our Iron Man, not the representation in the comics book because it's very present over there. So this is a dispute that is not one that the books are going to win in
oh
this
yeah,
case.
but you're right in so many levels. But I want to go back to what you're telling about the importance of Count Dracula in the media, because if we look now into entertainment, we are seeing this growing phenomenon which is called expanding universe. We are seeing Marvel, who was a very little publisher in the 50s of comic books, nowadays is a monopoly of ideas of entertainment, because they are ruling not only cinema, they are going for television, they are going for comics, they are going for comic books and that kind of stuff. So they are like a monopoly in entertainment. But we need to understand that first of all, it was Dracula. Marvel Comics use Dracula to help themselves, because in a way they were in bankruptcy. Sorry, bankruptcy, and they use Dracula as a level, no, to pop out new characters like Blade, as you told, or this other vampire, which is the movie is coming, Morbius, and the Tomb of Dracula. Ron, those were very powerful titles of Marvel in a way when superheroes weren't that popular. Dracula was a best-selling for Marvel, and it was the same way with DC, because Dracula had been appearing and fighting with Batman and fighting with Superman. So in a way, Dracula is first in all this expanding universe. It will come when all the universe will expand, they will merge all together, and Dracula will be there first, because he was first than Superman. He was first than we are seeing so many superheroes that has the powers of Dracula. I mean, the Storm of the X-Men has the same powers of Dracula to gather these storms and that kind of stuff, no?
Enrique, I love your hypothesis of Dracula being the first transmediatic content, because the thing is, when we talk about these the first of something, we always have difficulties. For example, the first movie projection, you have the debate that it was from the Lumiere brothers. You have the debate that it was in the United States with Edison, and you have other experiences that were made as well. And then you have what I think is interesting is that people start putting trying to put that this was even earlier. So then you start having that in my opinion are the uh, crazy hypothesis over there that for example the first movie projection was in Plato with Plato's cave, and I think this is a delirious hypothesis, but there is this hypothesis as well. So one thing that I think is very interesting is when you think about the first something, you have hypotheses that make sense, and then you start having delusional hypotheses that continues being made, and you put your hypothesis way earlier than the other hypotheses that we have. Normally, people say that they are the Star Wars was the first transmediatic aspect, and they put normally in that period Harry Potter, etc. And you put way earlier in a way that I think you don't do the Plato cave thing. You put it in a way that it makes sense. So for me, it is very interesting to see this. You putting the hypothesis of transmediatic apparatus contents beginning maybe 50 or more years earlier than people normally tend to put, in a way that it makes sense, because when the first time you said it, I thought, well, that makes sense. That's very interesting. This, and the first time that I heard about Plato's cave being the first cinematic projection, I laughed, because it is, for me, it is a very delusional way of saying that cinema was always present in our life.
Yeah.
I like the term delusional theory. I like this concept of delusional theory of yours. I don't know. I actually like Plato. Just to go with the Plato cave for a moment, I actually like this theory, but I never treated it as this is the beginning of cinema. I think this is maybe we can interpret it as the beginning of the dream of human dream of cinema, which came so many centuries after, but but I like your idea of delusional theory here.
But okay, let's go back to the original the original thing, the book and the importance, because Dracula is a cultural thing, but I really don't want to leave the audience with the idea that I'm telling that the book is not as important. So let's talk about the book, guys. What do you feel about the book, the way it's written, the way it was managed by Bram in when he was alive?
I think that your hypothesis of the transmediatic content, it's something that makes sense to understand the book, because it's interesting, that aspect that you mentioned first, that Bram Stoker is not a very famous writer, or with other stories. And of course, this is common in all mediums. We have the directors that did one masterpiece and never did nothing else. And you have directors that do that half of their career is good, half of the career is bad, and has ups and downs. You have varieties, of course, in cinema and literature, etc. But the thing I like this hypothesis because of the stylistic aspect over there, because Dracula looks something that is Bram Stoker put more energy on it. It's something bigger than what Bram Stoker did in other aspects, and it has a different stylistic aspect. And maybe we could think about Bram Stoker as a literature person who was experiencing different styles in literature, or maybe we can think about Bram Stoker really thinking about a play adaptation of Dracula that I think it's very plausible and very interesting, and thinking about other ways of introducing Dracula, maybe in Orson Welles style, in that what he did with War of the Worlds in the radio. Maybe Bram Stoker was thinking about doing something similar with the newspapers. Uh, I think this is a way of understanding Dracula that makes a lot of sense, because the book is extremely different from uh, even from Dracula's Guest, that is part of the book. If you read both of them, sorry, it is extremely different, and it's part of the same story. It's really interesting, the stylistic aspect of Bram Stoker, and I think that the idea that Bram Stoker was someone thinking about this transmediatic aspect is something that can explain lots of things that are uncommon over there in the book. I like it. This is why I like this hypothesis.
Mhm. Well,
Magda.
actually, that's an interesting thing about the Dracula's Guest is that it comes in some countries it comes as part of the book, and in other countries it comes as a separate thing. I read it as a separate thing when I met with Dracula universe in the first place. And another shocking thing I'm going to reveal to you today is that first translation of Dracula in Polish was made in you would never guess the decade in the 20th century.
I can bet 1990.
Oh, yes. How did you know? Did you know that?
No, because Romanian translation was released in the same period. So my guessing was that maybe
yes, I mean political connections, of course, and that's the explanation why it came so late. It was 1990, and that was the first translation. And the funny thing is that it was much shorter than the original. So the translator decided that there is absolutely too many words in the book. So it had about 100 pages. For instance, the character of Van Helsing, he was there, but he was not so much attention was paid to him. So that's interesting what the translator considered as important as well. And why it came so late, of course, the explanation is in the system, and the direct post-communism allowed for books with supernatural content to be published and read.
That is interesting. I need to tell you that I cannot tell you for sure which was the first Mexican translation, because I cannot recall. I have plenty of Spanish translations, but you need to understand that the Spanish from Spain is very different than Spanish from Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And what time?
Most of the translations that we had in Mexico were from Spain or from Argentina, which is another country who produce a lot of books. But Mexico, I have like these very cheap editions, very cheap editions, and they don't have like a copyright of the original translation, you know. Yeah, they are very cheap, so I cannot tell you which one is the first one in Mexico.
Okay, but more or less, what decade was that? I'm just
the
curious.
First Spanish edition is this one. Is this one?
Wow.
This is from the 1934.
Okay, so that's much earlier.
Yeah, much earlier, and this is kind of strange. I managed to grab this copy on an auction in Spain, actually,
and he looks like Batman as well.
Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
The cover.
Yeah. And look, this has kind of illustrations.
Very nice.
Yeah. But this is very cheap, it's in paper, in newspaper paper. Yeah, the Batman. But look at this guy. This is not Dracula. This is like a monk or something.
This is already a combination of various images that people created from the beginning. And yes, what surprises me in the context of that Polish edition came only 31 years ago. It's in my lifetime. It's crazy, and regardless of that, people already had the image of Dracula, so everyone knew who Dracula was, what kind of a character, and that such a character exists. So it's not the book that brought Dracula to Poland. It's the movies again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea which was the first edition here in Brazil of Dracula, but I imagine that the first edition would be on Portugal, actually.
Yeah.
Same thing that happens to you, Enrique. Probably a Portuguese from Portugal edition, and afterwards a Brazilian edition. But I have no idea the time periods of.
Oh, that is interesting. We should look into that, because as Hans de Roos found, many translations have many surprises.
Yes,
in there.
yes.
No?
We actually should get Hans here to talk about it.
Yes.
Because that's the source of knowledge about the various editions and translations as well.
So, okay, guys, we are celebrating the 124 years of the publication. How about if we close this session with a final thought about the importance of this book and this week that we are running in?
I think that you should start, Enrique.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Dracula, you caught me off guard because I was asking. Okay, Dracula, the importance. I mean, it's. I've dedicated all my life to study Dracula. Not most of the time as a fan, and nowadays as a professional. But Dracula, it's a cultural phenomenon. I have the memories of reading Dracula before the movie, so I'm glad I came up with a Stoker novel before the movies. I mean, I already had the images already there, but I never saw the movies after before reading the novel. So in my experience, Dracula is the Bram Stoker novel, and that is why I am so obsessed with try to bring him his work into the popular culture, because I think it's a shame that such a wonderful text, although it feels old, although it is very patriarchal, had a lot of flaws. For me, it's a very important story, but because it defines many of the popular culture that we had, the way that many of the construction of the characters on the tropes of horror movies, on the Gothic and the imaginary, it's a very, very powerful myth that birthed with the book 140 years ago, and nowadays it's a cultural thing that we all can enjoy and we all can participate, because Dracula is like a party that we all can jump in, as it is not owned by the media. It is not Marvel that they want their copyright for their character, and you cannot use Captain America for whatever. Dracula is in the open, so anyone can jump in and bring her own experience into this big umbrella that is growing and growing, and that is Dracula for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's an unquestionable thing is that Dracula is a tremendous part of pop culture nowadays, as we've said on many occasions already. Uh, and the book is so important because no matter how many, to use Yuri's word, to steal Yuri's word, delusional visions come our way and interpretations of what happens to be shown on screen, there is always the book to get back to and correct the reality and the way to remind about the vision that was in the first place. You said you used the word flaws. I'm not sure these are flaws that the book is so very much patriarchal. I think this is the thing of the times, isn't it? So it's a quintessentially Victorian writing, and I don't consider it to be a flaw. It's just it's quite sweet when you think about it. That it's such a document of the times as well, and of the way people were thinking and the stereotypes that were existing there. So I think that the book is absolutely marvelous. Just for for a literary reason, it's just a wonderful story written in such a way that captivates, even though it's archaic for today's reader. And I think it is, as I said at the very start, it's immortal and it's always going to be around, regardless of how many comic books and films and TV series are going to be made. Yeah. So we have always the original to get back to.
Okay, Yuri.
I agree with just an observation. I agree with Magda's talk about this idea of the flaws, because it was a trending aspect over there of men to be patriarchal over there. So the book is just a reflection of what was the common sense in that period. And in this aspect, it would be extremely strange if we had like Bram Stoker being a very forward person in time, talking about the deconstruction of this female. So it would be very strange if this happened. But about the book, I have one personal aspect. I am a cinematic Dracula fan. So all my relation with Dracula started in cinema. The first Dracula movies I've seen were lots of them, because I got really interested in the character and I started seeing lots of his movies. And afterwards, I went to the source material, to the book. And this was very interesting for me because when I read the book, the fact that the book is extremely different from the movies was very interesting for me, because it didn't look. I wasn't reading something that I knew what would be. It was extremely different for me. Every page was wow. I had no idea. Wow, and this emotion that I felt reading a book is something that it's very hard for a person who sees a movie and afterwards you go over there and read the book. I always think that it's very complicated to read a book after you see a movie that is extremely similar. Because it's like a short version, you already know what's going to happen. So Dracula, I had no idea what was going to happen. I just imagined that so many changes. I imagined that Dracula would die in the end. Maybe this. So it was the only thing I knew. Everything was extremely different, and that stylistic structure that Bram Stoker puts over there, it's extremely different from everything we've seen in cinema. So the first impression that I had when I finished reading the book was, wow, this is a masterpiece. This is an incredible piece of literature. And I got more interested in the character due to the book. I was very interested in this character. And when I've seen how different these things were and how good it was, because I think we have like some of probably best movies in cinema history are a few movies from Dracula. Nosferatu is one of the greatest movies in history, and you have a book that is one of the greatest books in history, in my opinion. So it's extremely interesting how you have this character that can be so important, so present, and so different in different mediums. And the book is where everything began. Even the vampire myth, it began earlier, of course. But Dracula structured this. The characteristics of the vampire were more well structured in the triad over there of the vampire from Polidori, Carmilla, and Dracula. These are the three books that structured in a better way what are the vampiric characteristics. And Dracula was the most popular of these three. So it is undoubtedly one of the most important books that we have, and one of the most present books that we have in pop culture in different ways. In different manifestations, in different ways, but it is present. And the relation that it has to Vlad Tepes is very interesting, because it's a very small relation, ridiculous relation over there. But the fact that this relation exists makes possibilities of inventions that are, it was a true story, basically, and all of these speculations that are that are incredibly impossible and stuff, and Dracula Untold versions of movies, and all of this becomes possible because it is a very polysemic character, polysemic character. So you have the Dracula that is a villain, you have the Dracula that's a superhero, the lover, and you have the shining on the sun Dracula. Nowadays we have all Draculas possible.
But you know what? Now that you're mentioning it, I really think media owns a representation of the original work of Bram, because as you well said, when you read Dracula, you find another character which is actually more interesting than the ones that are depicted in the media. Dracula in the novel is an awesome character, and he's very Faustic, because he actually sold his soul to the devil for knowledge in the skull of man. So that myth is amazing, and I really think media owes a representation of this very, very secondary character, because Dracula is that powerful that he can manage to be a secondary character in his own book and still goes first.
Yeah, I think that Dracula, in my opinion, Dracula is the main character, but I understand the secondary aspect over there, because lots of people, lots of scholars argue this as well. But in my subjective way of reading, for me, Dracula is the main character. But I agree with you, because one thing that the audio, I love all of the Draculas from audiovisual. I am passionate about Nosferatu. I think it's a brilliant movie, and I think it's a phenomenal representation. I think Max Schreck is an icon with his. But one thing, the Dracula in the book is the most villain Dracula that I've seen. The most badass Dracula, or you haven't seen this in media yet, because he's a raper. He's
the personification of evil.
Yes, he's a very bad person, and in the book there's no justifying, no reason for Dracula being bad. He's just bad. And cinema tries to explain why he's bad. This happened. Coppola's version in this case, he's a passionate person that lost his loved one.
He's a dramatic character.
A romantic.
Yes,
in Coppola's version.
But in the other versions, I think you have this aspect as well, especially because in cinema some things are are very explicit. So some things in the book, if they are portrayed very equally in the cinema, they are going to get more explicit. So this is something I really miss. This portrait of Dracula, so evil and so bad and so dangerous as he is in the book.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that you're going to have to wait another generation until you have another version that is really, really evil, because we're exactly in the moment in cinematic history when something opposite is happening, isn't it? So we've been romanticizing Dracula for quite a long time, and now we're trying to make him into a teenager and all these shiny aspects and all that, because I consider, all these vampires that come in the 21st century as Dracula's sons and daughters. So even if they are not directly based on the character of Dracula, he's there in the character, and it's just evolves and changes. So even the last adaptation, the last BBC adaptation that everyone is not very happy with, Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat. I was talking about this recently at the Congress. And they are trying, the writers are trying to give him more of an evil side. But in the end, as I argued, and I'm going to argue till the rest of my days, he's actually gave up to this modern 21st century trend and displayed a little bit of humanity at the very end. So I think it evolved and it changes.
Yes, if we think about this, the most popular and the biggest productions and most popular representations that we have from Dracula from the last 20 years or 10 years, maybe. Let's get a smaller period. 10 years are Dracula Untold, where he is a superhero, and Hotel Transylvania, where he is a nice daddy. So portrayed by Adam Sandler. So these are the most
contemporary,
the most contemporary representations of Dracula, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so awful, because I really wish to envision Dracula as Bram Stoker wrote it, because whenever you read it, it's amazing experience. It kept the stress. It kept the horror. It still have it. So I really enjoy the Dracula from the novel. Okay, guys. So we are on the final thoughts of this. Any final thoughts on the publication of Dracula?
I think that's it. I think it's emblematic publication, emblematic book that is really present in our contemporary imaginary, and it's going to be really present for probably lots of years through, in different ways. That is the thing that sometimes frustrates us, but sometimes gives interesting possibilities, because the new representations of Dracula are interesting. I like Hotel Transylvania. I didn't like Dracula Untold, but I like Hotel Transylvania, and I like Nosferatu. That is different as well. So the bad side is that we won't have the real Dracula in cinema so soon, but we have new Draculas that are fun as well. So
expanding the universe, the Dracula universe.
Yes.
Exactly.
Magda,
I've heard several times. I've heard such an expression talking about Bram Stoker and Dracula. And Bram Stoker is the least known author of the most famous book. That's referring to what Enrique was talking about at the beginning here. So yes, I mean, there is more and more interest in Bram Stoker nowadays, I think. or maybe this is just my impression because I'm a part of this circle. But I think there is more and more people are aware of this author and not just his character. But well, undeniably, and we have to come down to the cliche that, first of all, if you haven't read Dracula, please read Dracula. It's something that you have to do once in your life, at least. And it is a book that is going to survive forever, I think.
Forever. Yeah. It's
Thank you.
a human myth, very important, no? And as we said, very, very alive and well.
Alive and kicking.
Alive and kicking. Okay, guys. So that's it for today. I would like to have a moment to invite you because we are talking about the anniversary of Dracula, and in Dracula's place, this is you're not aware of this, but in Dracula's place, we are relaunching the Dracula store because as you know, my work is trying to bring back and the original work of Bram Stoker into popular culture. So I'm doing this kind of work, bringing the same elements that movies has, like merchandising and that so kind of stuff, visualizing the work of Bram Stoker. So for the 124th anniversary, which is on the 26th of May, we are releasing the Dracula store. So this is an invitation to go there and see what we are doing there. Let me share the screen so we can discuss this. The draculastore.com, and this is very related with Dracula.
Wow.
I'm trying to put the novel into merchandise because I really think that is what Dracula lacks. No, what we are discussing. So I'm using the novel to come up with all these things. So it is going to be available for the public on the 26th. So this is an invitation to celebrate the one important book and see there. This is the way to celebrate 140 years of a great book.
Very nice. What a great idea. Is it going to be shipped worldwide?
Yeah, worldwide, definitely.
Fantastic.
Because nowadays the idea is to have these printers. The printers are actually in the United States, so they distribute all over the world.
No, I think that you're going to make a lot of people very happy with these items.
And you will receive something for the store anytime soon.
Fantastic. Thank you in advance.
No, thank you.
That is great.
Being here.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
No, thank you for being here, actually. And this is very important for us three. Please, if you like our content, if you like our conversations about Dracula, give us a thumb and a like, and share with all your people, because we really enjoy having these conversations about Dracula, and you're very welcome. Yuri, thank you very much.
Thank you, Enrique. It was a pleasure. And see you soon.
See you soon. Next week?
Yes.
Next week, Magda?
Yes, it's fine.
Wonderful. Let's do this next week.
Thank you for having us again. That was great.
Have a nice one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.